Oh, hey, so what I'm trying to do here is outline a universal theory of mental health and the mind. Yeah, and in this episode, we're going to look at detaching from your thoughts and why everything in mental health ends up telling you, detach from your thoughts, get them at arm's length, and how that may relate to some visions that a scientist had about the nature of the spirit world and how it influences your mind. Okay, let's go. I want to start out by saying that there's two states that the human mind can be in, generally speaking. There's you're mentally healthy and you're mentally ill. So the dividing line between these two states, there can be a lot of argument about where it is. Do we overdiagnose things? Are we calling everything a mental illness when it's not actually? Do we underdiagnose? Are there a lot of things that aren't getting treated that should be? Whatever. There's both when you get to the polls. Everybody knows you can have mental health issues and you can have a pretty healthy, normal brain. You know that if you've been around people who have been struggling with it, but you also really know it if you've been inside of it, which, by the way, yeah, you're watching a mentally ill person right now. I mean, I don't know. I'm doing all right now, but I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, major depression, obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay, so I've been in there, and when you have to deal with the human mind, like all of us do, you kind of wonder, why is it like it is? And also, why does it get sick? And why does it have all this challenging stuff in it? Because it's such a pain to deal with. So we know that human beings experience these states of mental illness, and we've made a lot of progress in treating it. We've found out ways that if somebody has a brain that is not doing what it's supposed to do, and their thoughts and their feelings are derailing their life, we have ways that you can fix it. We developed all these different kinds of therapies and medications, and you get there by working with the mind, and you observe the mind, because there's not that much. You can't directly measure a lot of stuff. You just have to talk to people and say, what are you experiencing? Oh, what if we do this? What if I ask you this? What if I get you to think this in a different way? What if we talk about this? What if we discover this? Then, are you feeling better? Okay, what if we give you this medicine? Are you feeling better now? And so through that, though, through just exploring the mind and then testing things, scientific method, we've come up with a bunch of tools that just are empirically, these can help you when you're in there. I know, and a lot of the tools are really amazing, and I'm grateful for the people who developed them. But what I'm wondering is, why do those tools work? What is the big picture with human consciousness? Because we don't really know. And especially if you've experienced mental illness, or if you've had a mind that is hard to navigate, a lot of the explanations for why our consciousness is like it is seem inadequate. This is my brain chemicals going against me, or something. It doesn't match up with the experience. So what's the full picture of consciousness? What I hope to illustrate here is posit some possible meta scenarios which explain why all these different branches of mental health treatment work like they do, and also to integrate the spiritual, don't turn it off, the spiritual with the mental. I am going to be giving a broad theory of everything of mental health that includes a spiritual component to it. Doesn't mean you got to believe in that, but to me, this is the only thing that completes the picture. It's the dark matter of the mind. So in the universe, it's like, why do the planets all move like they do? There's something out there, dark matter, dark energy, that must be there, that completes the picture, because otherwise it doesn't make sense without it. The spiritual side, I think, is the dark matter for the mind. I believe that if we can effectively get the spiritual treatment talking to the physical or rational secular side of it, then we're really going to get to heal people and help people better. I'm going to be talking about different disciplines of psychology and therapy methods, and it's probably going to be pretty obvious to you, I'm not an expert in any of these things. I don't have a degree in any of these things. I'm not trained or licensed in any of this stuff. I'm an enthusiast, and I have used these things and had trained people apply them to me, but I ain't no doctor, and don't take this as a substitute for getting treatment from professionals. If this can be helpful to you in piecing together the puzzle, that's awesome. But yeah, this is just somebody on YouTube talking in real time, trying to figure this out, trying to piece together why is my mind like it is, why is my life like it is. All of that said, in this episode, I want to look at the principle. You could sum it up as, don't believe everything you think. or get some distance from those thoughts. So across all these things that we found by all these different methods from these different cultures, different time periods, there's this universal truth that when you're struggling with mental illness or whatever, negative mind, one really important thing to do is get you to see those thoughts as something separate from you. You gotta say, there's me, and then there's these thoughts that I'm dealing with. Or there's reality, and then there's these thoughts that I'm dealing with. Let me prove it to you that this is something that appears everywhere. The simplest and probably oldest form of treatment that uses this method is mindfulness, which is a broad catch-all term for meditate-y kind of stuff. In mindfulness, the thing you do, I'm sure you've heard it, like picture your mind as a field or as a sky. When a thought comes in, you just let it drift by. Because normally you'd grab onto that thing and you'd say, well, yeah, what if that's true? And what if that means? Don't grab that cloud. Let it drift by until it's out of your mind. So this is just the basic idea. You can look at your thoughts and not identify with them. The observer mind is a simple yet powerful technique that's been used for centuries to reduce stress, cultivate focus, and increase overall happiness. Funny that disengaging from your thoughts would do all those good things for the human mind. Put a pin in that. Why would that be? Isn't your mind your thoughts? And why would you ever benefit almost universally from putting distance between you and your thoughts? Jumping forward a couple of centuries, there was an excellent book on obsessive compulsive disorder, kind of one of the tentpole central treatment breakthrough books for it, called Brain Lock. Brain Lock is how to get you unstuck. So in obsessive compulsive disorder, if you ain't never had it, it's like you can't stop thinking about certain things. You get these really unpleasant scenarios and thoughts and feelings, and they are there, and you got this impending doom feeling, and you want to get rid of those feelings, so you try to do things, compulsions, to try to get rid of those feelings and thoughts. You just can't stop thinking about it, and it keeps coming back. Brain Lock is saying, look, here's a couple of steps to get you unstuck. So you can be like a normal person who might have that worry and then move on to the next thing. In Brain Lock, they tell the story of there was a woman who was totally having her life destroyed by obsessive compulsive disorder, and she couldn't function. She was just a slave to these compulsions to do all these things and all that. And they showed her some brain scans that showed that actually your brain is lighting up in all these different ways than it should. You really have a condition here. And she said, oh, it's not me, it's my OCD. That's like one of the major tools in the book. It's not me, it's my OCD. What that is, separation. Because you've got these thoughts and feelings that come in, you say, oh, that's not me, it's my OCD. And they refine that more. In the book, there's these 4 steps to get you free. And the first one is relabel. When you get one of these obsessing, intrusive, besieging thoughts, the first step that can absolutely change this whole disease is you relabel it. So that is just, instead of saying, I believe that this terrible thing is going to happen, you say, I'm having an obsession that this terrible thing is going to happen. That's it. And then in step 2, which is reassess, you say, why? Why is this bothering me so much? Oh, because I have this brain imbalance that's called obsessive compulsive disorder. This is a symptom of a medical condition that I'm having. And those 2 steps to take you from I'm looking at reality to I'm having a symptom of a disease, dude, amazing. It can have a huge impact. And again, separate you from your own mental contents. That's the strategy for treating obsessive compulsive disorder. They came up with all this stuff at UCLA. There's a bunch of scientists, and they did it, and they know that it works, and that's it. Kind of like the observer mind. Separate. In cognitive behavioral therapy, there is something called cognitive diffusion. Let's say you have some thought comes, I'm going to die today, or, this mole that I have is going to be cancer. Instead of just, that's what's going to happen, you say, I'm having a thought that this terrible thing's going to happen, or I'm worthless, or whatever it is. And then you say, I notice that I'm having a thought that might sound like nothing, but when you're in there, it's like, oh no, wait, I'm separating. Instead of,
here's the reality,
I'm having that thought, I notice that I'm having the thought. It's like you're holding it farther away from yourself, and it works. Also, cognitive behavioral therapy, which I love, by the way, it will get you to challenge your thoughts. So you examine your catastrophic thoughts for what are called thinking errors. And you say, wait a second, this thought is exhibiting all or nothing thinking, or it's fortune telling and catastrophizing, which these all have their definitions to them. So you are, again, instead of just this is reality, you're getting critical, you're separating yourself from that. Internal family systems therapy, which Swedenborg Foundation just did a book about that and Swedenborg and the similarities between them. That too has this thing called unblending, where if it feels like there's a part of you that you're so identified that you're all riled up, a thing to do that really helps is you unblend. Like that part's over there, and there's a different part of me that's the self with a capital S, and I have these certain characteristics of calm, compassionate, and you're over there, you're still there, but you're not right on my face. Metacognitive therapy has this thing called detached mindfulness. Detached mindfulness is a mind strategy that is the opposite of rumination, worry, and thought control. Detached mindfulness means leaving thoughts alone in your mind without pushing them away. Another important part of detached mindfulness is to view thoughts for what they are: brief inner events that aren't facts. A thought is a brief inner event that's not a fact. Well, that ain't what your thought tells you when it comes in. Especially negative, intrusive thoughts. They will just say, I am a fact. There is not even a thought here. This is just you observing reality. So why would it be that this, again, it's saying, look, you got to just understand, thoughts are just thoughts. So all these things from all these different people, all these different study methods, all these different eras, they all come to the conclusion that an important part of treating a number of conditions of all kinds is you got to put some space between you and your thoughts. You got to not identify with those thoughts. You got to see them as something outside of the you. This is something that's at arm's length that you can discern and choose how you react to it. It's more treating your thoughts like a text message that you get from an unknown number. It's like, is this someone I can trust? Do I believe what they say? Or it's like you're doing right now to this YouTube video. You turned it on, you made it this far, so congratulations. But you're trying to assess, does this guy know what he's talking about? Do I believe him? He could be totally off the deep end. I mean, or he could be onto something. You're assessing that right now. You're not just like, when I open my mouth, that's what's happening. That's the truth. Because you don't know. And you know that the internet is full of great information and full of terrible information. All these mental health modalities are trying to get you to act the same way towards your mental contents. Almost like it's something that can be very helpful, but it's like outside you. It's a system that needs to be vetted. It's like almost like you're searching the internet in your mind, and you got to discern, is this mental video worth watching or not? So what I'm going to say to you today is that maybe the reason why that helps and is something that's been found in all these different ways to treat things is because that's really how it is with our thoughts. They really aren't a part of us in the way that you'd think they are. So now I want to bring in the spirituality. And so this is adding to our list of things we've already had. I want to add in Emanuel Swedenborg's term perception. So Swedenborg, this was back before there was any kind of established psychology. He was a scientist, an anatomist, very interested in human consciousness, but they had a very rudimentary understanding of it in the 1700s. So he had a spiritual awakening where he suddenly had the veil lifted. This is according to him, of course. The veil was lifted and he saw the spiritual half or side of consciousness. That he saw, here's the big picture of why your mind works like it does. And the short answer to what is the human mind is the human mind is a portal into, is there any way to say this without sounding crazy? It's a portal into the spiritual world. That there is an afterlife that is, like the term would suggest, it's what you go to after this life. So everybody that you know who's died is in that afterlife. Everyone you've heard of, all the musicians you know that have died, everybody, every serial killer, everyone who's ever died is in the afterlife. And there's a part of you that's there. Your conscious part actually resides there. And the thoughts and feelings that come to you are heavily, heavily influenced by people in the afterlife. And the tool you can use to navigate the human mind, it's an awareness of the spiritual world, Swedenborg calls perception. Now, I think it's like a jacked up version of all these other observation techniques. He uses the term in a few different ways in a few different places in his collected works, but the one I want to focus on now is perception is essentially the idea that you can tell when you get a mental influence of any kind. You can get to a state where you can tell, where does this come from? What kind of spirits, which is the name he gave to people in the afterlife, are influencing my mind right now? This is from his book, Secrets of Heaven. Sometimes something would occur to my thoughts and to the desires of my will, whose source I would not know. Whenever I wanted to know, I was shown where it came from, meaning his thought started in the spiritual world, specifically which communities, and occasionally through which spirits as their delegates. This is a lot to dump on you at once, but there's the idea that there's all these communities of people in the afterlife because you're drawn toward people who are like you and think like you, kind of like you get affinity communities now on the internet. You know, even the people that would watch this video versus watch a different video, you kind of have something in common. That's what drew you toward here. They would then have sort of representatives who would come out and deliver a message. They would talk with me then and admit that they had thought it up, meaning the thing that entered his mind, and knew it would flow into me and seem to me to be inside me. You think of your mind as the sky, and the clouds from thoughts are floating through. Where'd those clouds start? Like, where's the cloud factory? Where's the ocean from which they evaporated and condensed? According to Swedenborg, places in the afterlife. So just like when you open up the internet and you look at YouTube videos or you look at posts on social media, those originated somewhere. Somebody somewhere or some company or some entity thought that up. Some of it is advertising and its intent is to get you to want to buy something. Some of it is propaganda and its intent is to get you to think a certain way. Some of it is a phishing scam and its intent is to get you to enter your sensitive information in there. But it all comes from somewhere. Everything you consume on social media and regular media, somebody thinks it up and they have some reason for doing it. And then it ends up inside your mind. And Swedenborg is saying that's the same way it is with the spiritual world, only that stuff doesn't go through your eyes. You don't open up your social thing, I don't even know what they're called anymore, and look at it. It comes right in to the thinking and the feeling that you have. Deceitful spirits who appear directly above my head sometimes flowed into me so subtly that I did not know where the inflow came from. I could scarcely perceive what flowed in as being anywhere but inside me and from me, the way others usually perceive such things, but I always knew for certain that it came from somewhere else. So the Lord would give me an awareness keen enough to make out every stream of the Spirit's inflow, as well as their whereabouts and identity. The Lord being the term Swedenborg uses for God. When the spirits noticed this, they would become extremely resentful, especially of my reflection on the fact that it came from them. The reflection was flowing in through angels. So you got angels and God, good positive presence in there. Deceitful spirits putting junk mail into Swedenborg's mind. And perception was this skill where he could, even if it seemed like this is my thought, he could look and see. For him, it was viscerally in front of him because he had this, I'm talking about, we would now call spiritually transformative experiences, astral projection, whatever you want. He could see the afterlife. He could see the places these things came from. It wasn't just like examine your thoughts to him, but he was able to pick out and know, basically, is this good or bad? Is this from heaven or from hell? From people who intend well to me and it's true? Or is it people who intend evil to me and it's not true? So perception is like, it's like in any of these other modalities where it's hey, separate from your thought, but this is like the ultimate. I'm actually looking at this is not from me. This is from whoever you are out there, and I can start to see what kind of spirit you are and what your intention is. Why are you putting this in my mind? And so what do I do with it? Now that seems like, that, why would you ever believe that? That sounds so crazy. I'll tell you why. If you've ever had to deal with a human mind that is constantly bludgeoning you with negative stuff that seems like it's trying to make you miserable, and it like reacts and changes things and And if you figure something out, it attacks you where you're weak somewhere else. And it's just, that doesn't seem like it's me. What is going on with that? And then when you look out and say all of these things, all these behavioral therapies and stuff, they say distance yourself from your thoughts. Why is that helpful? Maybe it's because, it's a mistake to believe in the first place that all these thoughts are you. That's why it leads you into trouble. The explanation for why all those other things I mentioned in the beginning work when you distance yourself from your thoughts, why does that have a positive impact on human psychology? It's because it allows the following to happen. Again, from his Secrets of Heaven. It also needs to be recognized that all evil flows in from hell and all goodness from the Lord through heaven. So to Swedenborg, the term hell just means the collective nastiness in the afterlife. The same kind of people who try to trick you and scam you and attack you and rob you here are trying to do that from the afterlife. So anybody who's acting with that intent to harm or exploit or something people, he would call that hell. And heaven is everyone who loves you and is trying to do good to the human race. So all evil flows in from hell and all goodness from the Lord through heaven, meaning everything that comes into your mind that's harmful and false, that's from hell. Everything that comes into your mind that is helping and true, that comes from heaven. The only reason evil is ever attributed to us as ours is that we believe and convince ourselves that we think it up and do it on our own. So we make it ours. If we believed the fact of the matter, goodness from the Lord would be attributed to us, not evil. That is because the moment evil flowed in, we would think, this is from the evil spirits with us. And when we did, angels would turn it away and cast it aside. Angelic inflow acts on what we know and believe, not on what we do not know or believe. It attaches only when there is something in us to attach to. Okay, so in this world, when you have negative thoughts, when you have anxiety, when you have depression, you have all that stuff, that negative stuff is in there. And there's good people to want to help you out of that. Maybe it's your therapist, maybe it's your loved ones, whatever it is. Those people are trying to give you the tools to get out from that. They want to help you. And then you have the negative thoughts, which are coming at you and trying to get you. What Swedenborg is saying is that's happening on the physical level. It's also happening on the consciousness or the spiritual level. Yes, we can say, oh, that's not me. It's my OCD. It's this disorder. There, you can see the germs that cause the disorder, which are these evil influences, or these negative, whatever you want to call it, influences from the afterlife. And when you realize that, then the people who want to help you, which on the other side are called angels. So just like here, you got, some professional or some friend is like, I want to help you out of this. The good people in the afterlife, they know you're going through this. They want to help you out of this, but they can't do it unless you have the right concepts in there and unless you let go of that stuff. So to be able to say, this is just from the evil spirits around me. You don't say that out loud, but you say it in your head. There's something that actually allows them to deflect it. And that's what diffuses and makes you not take seriously all the negative stuff that comes in. So in cognitive behavioral therapy or in internal family systems or in mindfulness, as soon as you are not identifying with it, it takes its power away. I think that's heaven getting in there too. There's a separation you've created. It's just that Swedenborg's perception of the reality of the spiritual world, that is the ultimate separation, because now you actually see fully clearly in the light. Oh, this is what's going on. And of course, I don't need to listen to these thoughts and feelings because they're just, it's just a scam. The whole thing's a scam. I'm not saying that you would replace these, secular modalities with spiritual stuff. Spiritual stuff, although I think you can ultimately get there, it's much harder to believe. It's much harder to believe and really, for yourself, feel like confident in there's a spiritual influence around me. And this is just from the negative side. God's here. The angels are here. They're going to take care of me. That's hard to believe. And if it's really coming at you hard, you're going to be like, that just kind of can fold unless you got like a really strong conviction in that, which I think you can be building up over the course of your life. But these other things, when you look at a thought and you identify the thinking errors that are in it, that you prove it to yourself. It's very easy to believe that. And in mindfulness, there's no like, what are we talking about? Spirits. So that really can be incredibly helpful frontline stuff. And I think you need to have that stuff and do it and use it while in your life, you slowly build up this confidence in the existence of the spiritual and of there's angels around, and also the idea that there's negative spiritual influence. That's so useful because it allows you to dismiss it. This morning, I got a text message that said, "This is FedEx ground shipping. If you don't contact us today, your package isn't going to arrive." And I was like, what, did my wife order something? What's going on? If I didn't know that there were scammers out there, that there are people sitting in these dingy buildings putting out these text messages, if I didn't know that was a thing, how would I ever delete that message? You got to know they exist. Same thing as, why is the mental illness so tenacious? Why is it so tricky and crafty? You got to understand there's these spiritual scam centers. And I think that, obviously I don't speak for the people that are practitioners of any of these kinds of therapy. They would probably be embarrassed that I was mentioning them in this video. However, I do see some leanings, like in the Brain Lock book, it says like OCD is like the devil, and the IFS book Swedenborg Foundation did, it's like you can only get so far into the mind without finding the spiritual. I think the secular study of the mind and the spiritual study or my reality of the mind, like those things are looking for each other. I think they are. I know that can go wrong in all kinds of horrible ways, but I think it can go right too. I really think Swedenborg, his map of consciousness, can explain and elucidate and empower, hopefully eventually a holistic solution where you can, here's the treatment plan. First, you get things really set with these scientifically validated techniques, but through that, we're building up your trust in God and providence and angels. And in the end, that's going to create a really good barrier to keep this stuff out. So whatever you do today, if you're having negative thoughts, separate from them. Separate from them in whatever way you can and whatever way makes sense, because that's good for the mind. Hopefully this video was a little good for your mind to give you something to think about. Thanks for watching. We'll explore another aspect of this in the next one.